Greetings, and welcome to the First United Methodist Church in Bowling Green, Missouri. We hope you enjoy what you're about to see, and you can find us at the corner of Broadway and Church Streets at 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings. Or you can find us at bgmethodist.org and on Facebook at Bowling Green First United Methodist Church. Today we're on the last message of this series, Seeking Truth in a New World. And we're starting off with something different. We're playing hide and seek in church during worship. Stay tuned to find out why. So I said things will be a little bit different this morning than what we're normally used to. I'll grab that here in just a minute. And so we're kind of finishing out where we've been the last few weeks with this idea that we are seeking truth in a new world. And so one of those truths that we're going to be dealing with this morning is something that we do kind of a lot of, but maybe we don't even realize that we're doing it. But in order to kind of get at that, I'm going to need some help this morning. And so I need the kids to come up. You all want to come up this morning? All of the kids? All right. Now, we're going to have some fun this morning, at least I think so. And some of you, if you are looking at the parents and the adults out there, if you're looking up at this going, he's not going to do what I think he's going to do. Yes, I am. All right. I need y'all's help this morning. We're going to play hide and seek. You don't know how to do that? Yes. Yep. All right. I think y'all might know how to do this, but before we play, we got to set up some rules, okay? So first thing, you can't go from this altar rail to that wall, and you can't go from this altar rail all the way up to that wall. So you got to stay on this side of everything, okay? And then you got to walk. You can't run. All right, and when I'm going to count to 10 Mississippi, and then I'm going to say, ready or not, here I come. And I'm going to come try and find you all. And then if I can't find everyone, which is more likely to happen than not, when you hear me say, ollie, ollie, oxen free, you got to come on up, all right? All right, you all ready? Okay. I'm going to turn around and count to 10 Mississippi, and y'all go and hide someplace, okay? All right, ready? Remember, you got to walk. Don't run, just walk, right? Okay. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi, 9 Mississippi, 10 Mississippi. Ready or not, here I come. Wow, they didn't turn that out there. I gotta remember, they're all a little bit smaller than me, so they can hide in places that I can't. Let's see where we're going here. All right, here's the middle. Wait. There's no one over here by you, is there? Oh, wait, I see someone there under a few. I think it's Miley. Yeah, I found one. Let's see. Wait, got another one. Wait, another one.
You found it.
Yeah. There's another one. All right. Have I should have counted first. Whoa.
I think we're missing one.
All right. Ollie, accent free. I'm going to have to tell you a story about someone else I knew who squeezed into a really small space, and we didn't find her for like half an hour. That one was hard. All right, so we played hide and seek. Y'all went ahead, and then I had to come find you, right? And y'all did a pretty good job. It took me a while before I found any of you. Well, I'm going to be telling a story this morning about a guy named Elijah. Yeah, I know Elijah. He's got your name. And we're going to talk about him. And he was playing hide and seek. He did steal Elijah's name. And we're do, and so we go and try and hide away from everything. That's what Elijah was doing this morning. But Elijah learned a really important lesson, and that was that even when he was trying to go hide, God still found him, and God still said, Elijah, I'm going to help you out. Let me help you out because I've got more still that I want you to do. All right, so I want you all to remember, next time we play hide and go seek, that God still knows where you are, even if maybe I can't find you because you're hiding really well. And even as adults, we have that same thing happen sometimes. So I want you all to pray with me. Hands together. And pray with me and repeat after me and say, God, thank you for fun games. Thank you for fun games. Thank you for always finding us. Thank you for always finding us. And help us to see you more.
And help
us to see you more. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all. This morning we're talking about Elijah. And Elijah did kind of get caught in a big game of hide and seek. But to understand how we get there, we've got to understand just kind of where it was that Elijah was coming from. Elijah was a prophet. And not just a little prophet, but he is the greatest of all of the prophets we have in the Old Testament. To the point that when we go back to 1 Kings chapter 17, God comes to Elijah and says, Elijah, you're going to declare a drought. And Elijah does. He says, all right, it's not going to rain anymore unless I say it is going to rain. And so that's just what Elijah does. And chapter 18 picks up and it says, and the story starts off with, now they had been in a drought for several years. For several years now, they had been in a drought, and Elijah was the one who started all of this out. Now here's where things begin to get interesting. Because as the story goes, Elijah decides, God comes to Elijah and says, Elijah, all right, it's time for things to change now. And Elijah says, okay. And so Elijah goes out and he calls out to King Ahab, who was the king in Israel at the time, in the northern kingdom of Israel. We have the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. And so we're talking about Israel now. And King Ahab is just like, my first thought always goes to Captain Ahab and Moby Dick. They were cut from the same cloth. Neither one of them were very great people. And in fact, in talking about King Ahab, at one point he is described as being the most evil and vile king that Israel had up until that point in time. So not a good guy that we've got up there. So Elijah, this is who he's dealing with. Elijah calls him up and says, all right, Ahab, it's time to settle this once and for all. You bring your prophets of Baal, 450 of them, and meet me up on Mount Carmel. So you got them up there, you've got Ahab and all the prophets of Baal, who were, Baal was the god that Israel was worshiping at that time, not our God, but this was another supposed god. And then you have Elijah standing kind of over here on the other side by himself. Because they had managed at this point in time to kill all of the other of God's prophets. That's still not great English. Kill the rest of God's prophets, except for about 100 of them that had been hidden away by one of Ahab's government officials who was still a faithful person. And so it was Elijah by himself facing down all of these guys over here. And Elijah says, here's what's going to happen. We're going to have a contest. And by the end of this, we'll know whose God is real. And here's how this contest is going to go. You're going to build an altar, and you're going to put a sacrifice on it, but you aren't going to light it. You aren't going to burn it. You're just going to build it and get it ready. And I'm going to do the same thing. And then we're both going to do our thing and pray to our gods. And whichever one of our offerings is consumed by fire, then that's how we'll know. And so they start this off, and Elijah, being the nice, wonderful, courteous man that he is, says, you can go first. Elijah was also really good at theatrics, and he is playing this up for all that it's worth. Says, you can go first. And so they go and they start building their altar and putting the sacrifice on there, and they get going and they get it ready, and they start doing their chanting and they're praying and they're dancing around and they're hooping and hollering around this altar, And I can almost see Elijah sitting over there on the other side of it. He's sitting down, kicked back a little bit. Probably got a fruity drink in his hand with a little umbrella in it. Because quite literally, in chapter 18, when, as the story is told to us in 1 Kings, Elijah is sitting there mocking these guys, saying, can't you yell a little bit louder? Can't you dance a little bit more? Maybe your God is asleep. Maybe you need to wake him up first. Or maybe he's on vacation. Do we need to postpone this for a couple of days so he can get back here and do something? And finally, they give up. They're tired, they're worn out, they've done everything they can do, and their offering is still standing out there. It's about the point that, as Debbie sits back down and I move again, that's about the point then that Elijah stands up and says, all right, my turn. And so he goes and he begins to build his altar. He takes 12 big stones for the 12 tribes of Israel, makes an altar, puts wood and put the wood on top of it, puts the sacrifice on top of that, and then he does this thing. He digs a trench around this altar. Now, he didn't normally do this, but again, Elijah likes theatrics. He's really going for all of it at this point. And he digs this trench around there, and then he looks at a couple of folks standing nearby and says, all right, I want you all to come and dump some water on this. Now, I've tried to start many fires with wet wood. It never works out very well for me. 3 times, Elijah has him dump water on top of this thing, to the point that that trench that he dug around the altar is full of water. And this thing is not going to light, no matter how much gasoline you throw on it at this point. It's just wet. But that's why he wanted it. And then Elijah begins to pray. And it wasn't even a particularly long prayer. This was, if you read in chapter 18, about 4 sentences long. Was all that his prayer was. Elijah prays, and then all of a sudden, whoosh! And not only is the offering consumed, the wood is all consumed, the stones underneath all of that are consumed, the dirt underneath the stones is consumed by fire, and all that water in the trench is all consumed by this fire that comes down. Now at that point, I don't know if I'd want to be one of those other prophets sitting over there on the side, just having watched this take place. And in fact, as the story goes, Elijah turns and looks at them and then has them killed for their crimes. All 450 of them. And then he turns and he looks at Ahab, and I don't think there's one thing that a king respects pretty much above anything else, and that's a show of power. And while there was a show of power like none Ahab had seen before, now he's kind of waiting to see what Elijah is going to do to him. And Elijah looks at him and says, all right, Ahab, now you need to go and start celebrating because the rains are coming. And about the time he said that, the clouds were starting to form and getting ready to make their way across and end the drought that Israel was in. Now, all of this happens in chapter 18. Remember where we picked up this morning in chapter 19. Elijah just had this huge, enormous victory. But now Elijah doesn't know quite what to do. Because he's getting ready to kind of do the next thing, but sometimes these things are more powerful if you are there in person to experience them. And Ahab's wife, Jezebel, wasn't. She hears about everything that happened, and she's getting angry. She is getting furious. And so she sends a messenger to Elijah that says, the next time I see you, you're going to be dead. And puts the word out, to have Elijah killed. And at this point, Elijah, knowing how powerful Jezebel is, that's when he runs. And he runs and he runs and he runs because he is scared of what Jezebel is going to do. And so he's taken off. And he runs for a while. He crosses down over into Judah, actually, and he finds a place where he stops. And he is done with everything. And it's at that point that an angel comes to Elijah and says, Elijah, here, have some food, have some water. You need it for the journey you're on. Now, we don't have too much of their conversation, but I can kind of imagine how that goes, where the angel tells Elijah this, and Elijah says, I'm not on a journey, I'm running. And the angel says, no, you're on a journey. Elijah says, no, I'm running. There's a difference. If you're on a journey, you're going to someplace. If you're running like I am, you're running away from something. That's what I'm doing. I think I know the difference. And the angel says, no, there is still something more there for you. And so it gives him some food and some water, and they do this another day, and then Elijah takes off for 40 days and 40 nights until he gets to Mount Horeb. And he goes up the mountain, and he finds himself inside of a cave, and God speaks to him and says, Elijah, I know what you're going through. I'm going to come pass by. And so then the first thing we hear is this wind that comes by, enough that it can split rocks even, but God isn't in that powerful wind. And then a great earthquake comes, and God's not in it. And then a great fire comes by that cave, and God isn't in the fire. But then, and I love the way the NRSV translates this, it says a sheer silence. And then a voice whispers out saying, Elijah, why are you here? This is where we find Elijah. Now the story will go on that Elijah pours himself out to God inside of that cave, and God says, I'm here with you. There's still more. You need to return back home because I've got more left for you to do. Elijah learned an important lesson that day. One that I think sometimes we need to learn or to unlearn in a lot of different ways. We're in a new and a different world. And it's scary, and it can be hard, and it can be difficult. And that's part of living in this world. And sometimes maybe we kind of get things a little bit backwards. You know, we play the game hide and seek, but if you look at my sermon title from this morning, it says seek and hide. That wasn't a misprint, that was intentional, because sometimes we get things backwards. Because sometimes we think that we are seeking after God as if we have to go find Him. Well, we don't have to go find God. God has been here the entire time. Sometimes it's us that get hidden. We hide ourselves away because we're afraid, because we're scared, because we think we're running from something just like Elijah was doing. That's part of who we are, and that's what happens. But we need to learn that same lesson that Elijah did, which is that we can't hide from God, no matter how many times this is my version of hiding. I do this, I put something in front of my face saying, if I can't see you, you can't see me. My favorite place to hide with youth that were in high school, junior high and high school is, they'll go off and they'll hide someplace, I'll stand in the middle of the field and I'm a tree, you can't see me. Just kind of, we do those kind of things. We try and hide, but we can't. And that's good news for us, that we can't hide from God because He is there. And He says, I know what it is you are struggling with. I know what it is you are going through. But I am still here. You can't hide from me. You're not running from anything. You are on a journey, and I still have more ready for you. Instead of this, or instead of that, we have, this is where we are. Now, this may look like some of our yards because of the rain we've had recently, but it's really the journey that we're on. The path that God has set before us that maybe it's going to take us a while to get down there, but this is where He calls us to be and calls us to go. This is the path that He set in front of us. So, over this next week and the week after this, since it's going to be a couple weeks before I see all of you, it'll be Jeffrey and I will be at annual conference next weekend. But take some time and look and ask, am I ready for something, or is God there and is He guiding me on a journey with someplace to go? And then more importantly, this is the same message we can take out to the rest of the world that needs to hear that kind of good news. That you don't have to worry about being afraid or being scared or hiding because God is there and there is still more in store. Let us go and be His people. Amen.